All right. Hi, Gabby. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And it's been a while since we last saw each other, right?
A long time. I
A
don't know
long
how
time.
many years,
10 years? I don't know, maybe more.
at least.
Yes. Great to see you again. And I want to ask you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what was your childhood like?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a coach. We'll talk about that in more detail in a second. But I grew up mainly in New York. I did have a short stint of living in Dubai when I was a child. So I was in Dubai until about 6.5 years old. And that is what I remember most about my childhood because it was very multicultural upbringing. I got to meet people from all over the world, and I was just a very playful child. I was always interested in art, trying different foods, learning about different people. So I think from my early stages of life, I was naturally drawn to people's stories, and I think that's what drew me into coaching.
Hmm. So you grew up in Dubai, and um, your parents are English,
They're both British. Yeah.
British. So you also
Yeah.
go back and forth between England and America, right?
A
Sometimes.
little bit. So
Yes,
over the
okay.
summers, yeah, we
Okay.
would go to England sometimes. Hmm.
Do you consider yourself a world citizen more than an American citizen?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay. So you went to Kenyan, right, for undergrad.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that right? And then you went to London School of Economics and you got a degree in organizational behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, and at the time, I had to make the decision, did I want to continue to study in the US or did I want to go elsewhere? But I had done 1 year in undergrad where I went to Oxford for a study abroad and I loved it. So I wanted to go back to England. So I decided to go again for my master's.
Very nice. Um, so uh, someone who worked in in a corporate world for a while and has a degree in organizational behavior, how did spirituality came into your life? Were you always spiritual growing up, or when at what age did you think that you had a different calling?
Yeah, when I was young, I was always really interested in spirituality and psychology, and I would read a lot of books about both of those topics. And even during college, I was actually a religious studies minor, so it was more of a religious angle, but I would always considered myself to be a spiritual person. And then moving forward into my corporate career, I really feel like my own spiritual practice of meditating and doing automatic writing was something that gave me a lot of freedom and helped me feel balanced despite, some of the stress that would come up and dealing with like pretty intense consulting clients and jobs. And I would educate my friends all the time. And then I started reading tarot cards actually for fun when I was living in New York and I was working at Accenture as a consultant at the time. And I just found these tarot cards in a bookstore and I became really good at reading them. I started doing readings for all my friends. And then I actually ended up making a YouTube channel based on my readings. And from there, my business was built.
Very nice. So, when did you decide, okay, I'm taking a break, or I'm done with my corporate job and I want to move into helping people, guiding people, coaching people, healing people full time?
Yeah. So full time was in, trying to remember the exact date, August of 2022. So fairly recently. I had had my YouTube channel for about 2.5 years prior to that. And I had been taking clients on the side. So I took them at night and I took them on the weekends. But I made the decision in that August to quit. And it was following a retreat where I really had to do some deep internal work. And I just knew that that was now my path.
Mm. Did your family or friends or close relatives did they think it was a little bit more impulsive decision, or did they know that it was coming?
I think a mix. I think that they knew that there was something within me, like a deeper calling that I was being led to, and it was clear for them to see for a long time. I've been pouring my heart and soul into my readings, my content, my clients, really the community that I was building. But I think on my behalf, they had a lot of fear and
Mm,
were really nervous about me jumping into my own business full time, especially from a financial perspective.
mhm.
But honestly, everything aligned for me, and I am one of the first people now who shares that I think sometimes you have to leap first, and the universe
Mhm.
will align things for you. So I work
Right.
on that with a lot of my clients today.
Very nice. So your parents are very supportive of your decision, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right.
now they are. Now they
Mhm.
understand that I love it and that it feels like my life's work.
Did you like, I mean, of course, you're helping people find their meaning in their life, so you had to find your meaning first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that was one of
And
the big pieces.
right. And your parents, like you said, now they're happy that you're doing well, but they weren't so convinced right when you started. And how did you navigate those challenges or their doubts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that my business background did help a lot because they could see that I am a reasonable person. Of course, they know me very well. I had put a lot of thought into being intentional about having coaching containers and packages. And so I think the way that I navigated some of their doubt was really just laying out, here's what I'm doing, here's my plan. But of course, like anything in life, you cannot plan everything. There's bound to be something that comes up. And it really is two different realities. Once you leave your corporate job, you can't really foresee everything that is going to happen.
Hmm.
So I think another thing that gave me personally a lot of confidence was I had worked at a startup for about over 2 years, and it was a very different environment from my corporate career, and it was much more trial by fire. I learned a lot of good on the job skills, and I was used to dealing with challenges in the moment and really adjusting and course correcting very, very quickly. And so I think just having that experimentation or innovative mindset really helped me for my business.
Very nice. Thank you. Do you think helping people and doing what you're doing now, coaching people, does your organizational behavior training come in handy?
Yeah, I think that the part that really does come in handy is the leadership development part that I focused on. Because most of what I'm doing is mainly one-on-one coaching or group coaching, but it's not like coaching one company, so it's a little bit different. I'm not necessarily looking at how to roll out a culture change, but the things that have really come in handy are understanding what motivates people, the difference between intrinsic motivators and then when they're being externally motivated, and really kind of getting to the core of some of their thought patterns and beliefs. And that's all training I had done at Accenture, doing my coaching degree. So that really helped. And yeah, in addition to that, in my master's degree, I also studied creativity and innovation. And now one of the things that I do is I coach people, usually women, who are wanting to build their own businesses, but we're doing it from both a spiritual angle as well as from a business perspective. So it's a really cool mix. So I use a lot of what I learned in that class in my coaching.
Very nice. Um, do you, you mentioned earlier that your minor was religious studies in your undergrad, and
Hmm.
spirituality can be sometimes perceived as to be tied up with the mainstream religion,
Hmm.
or on the flip side, it can be associated with fringe, alternate counterculture inhabitants like the
Yeah.
hippie. And
Yeah.
do you think? How do you convince people like it has got nothing to do with any of those things and it can totally be on its own?
That's a great question. I think that a lot of people can resonate with the idea of energy and believing in something greater than themselves. So, if how they view that is religion, that's fine. That's what speaks to them, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think a lot of people want to feel more enlightened
Hmm.
in whatever form that manifests. So, usually, most people feel much better after doing a 10 or 15 meditation when they've really connected to a deeper part of themselves. than if they didn't do it at all. So I try and use small examples, and really I just educate a lot about energy, how we are always changing our own energy, and that there's always energy from source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, available to
Mhm.
us. And that if we learn to integrate that energy into our lives, then we'll be more positive, more motivated, more joyful, and also more aligned to our true purpose in life.
Mhm. And when you talk about spirituality at workplace, and how do
Mhm.
you convince the people in the corporate world that they can use your help? And spirituality at workplaces um,
Mhm.
is actually about finding meaning at work, or how?
Yeah, it can be. I think that a lot of people can feel disconnected, especially if they're just going through the motions. And that's something that I resonate with because that happened to me. So,
Mhm.
again, just it starts with intention, and intention doesn't always have to be a really spiritual thing. It can purely just be holding the intention that you want to make your role more fulfilling for you and you want to give back to your community. Most people, by looking within more and not just going through the motions, but instead making more intentional decisions, will naturally learn that that's a spiritual side of them. So, one thing I do when we're talking about decisions they need to make, for example, in their career, or if they want to influence a team member, is a lot of like meditation. And I even use role playing. So I'll say,
Mhm.
okay, let's get quiet. Let's close your eyes. Let's really check in with how you're feeling internally. And
Mhm.
I teach them how to use their body's wisdom as well to make more aligned decisions.
Right. Beautiful. So workplace, spirituality in yourself and business are usually intertwined, right? More than you think.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
it's totally intertwined. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very nice. What? So you said you help people, but mostly women, right?
mostly
About
women, although
women,
there
right?
are more men
Although,
coming in this year, which is great.
very nice, very nice. And what? I know you have a whole, like, on your website you can go and book your discovery call and
Hmm.
everything. But what
Hmm.
kind of piece of advice would you give to somebody who is in trying to figure out what they want to do, their purpose in life, what, or any advice you have, or want to start a business like yours, like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
good question. I think you need to do two things. The first thing is follow where your energy is leading you. So naturally, if we follow our energy and it is something joyful and lighting us up, that's probably a good thing to follow because you'll naturally have more energy towards whatever that task is. So for me, one sign that I was not meant to stay in my corporate career is I was struggling a lot. I was feeling really dense and really heavy actually, and I was carrying that energy around all the time, and so it wasn't really resonating with me and being in that environment. But when I was doing my spiritual work, I felt happy and joyful and lit up. I felt motivated. So the first thing is just always pay attention, like take stock of where your energy is. And then from there, be willing to experiment, especially if you want to
Mhm.
build your own company. Not everything is going to be perfect at the beginning, but think of it as a series of little iterations, and you can always course correct as you go. The market is always going to lead you. And
Mhm.
more often than not, the thing that feels really good internally is most likely closest to your purpose. And people understand when you're doing something that's authentic to you. So always do what's authentic. Don't do something that feels false.
Thank you. I have one final question. Success can mean different things to different people. Um, how do you define success, and if you have any success story, one particular individual and you made a difference in their life, can you give me an example, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I have so many stories of people that I've worked with where one of my clients, Maggie, she was in a teaching role that, again, she was kind of going through the motions. She wanted to change her life, but didn't know how. And through our work together, we did a lot of healing work and a lot of intentional work just about what her dream life would look like. One of the main things she was rooting for was having more freedom in her schedule and more space to really create. And now she actually has her own coaching business as well, and she's doing really well. She's leading workshops, still using her teaching skills, but she's actually using the tarot cards as a framework for her coaching. And
Mm,
so I think she really needed to take that space and time and be intentional. And you can still use the same skills, but you're doing it in a different expression. And just
mhm.
having permission to try something new is
Wow.
usually what resonates with people.
Wow. Thank you. Well, brilliant. Thank you so much. It was so much fun talking to you, Gabby.
Me too.
And thanks for your time. And I'll let you know when this is ready. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
you have a good evening or good night, whatever time it is there. Probably it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock,
Yeah,
3:30, right? Okay.
it
All
is.
right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thank you so much for
Bye.
having me.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.